Xin chào các bạn. It's really good to be here with everyone. What I hope to do is share with you what I'm seeing in some opportunities in AI, including opportunities in Vietnam and with FPT. So I think over the last year, AI has really taken off in a way that surpasses even previous levels of excitement. So over the last year, we've seen AI catch really global attention. And one of the tricky things about AI is a general purpose technology, meaning it's useful not just for one thing, but it's useful for a lot of different things. Kind of like electricity. If I were to ask you what is electricity good for, it's almost hard to answer that because it's useful for so many things, and AI is like that too. So what I'd like to do is briefly go over the technology landscape and then talk about some of the opportunities open to all of us here in Vietnam and around the world. So I think of AI as a collection of tools. And of the different tools in AI, the two most important are supervised learning, which is very good at labeling things, and generative AI, like ChatGPT, which has taken off around the world just in the last year or so. If you study AI, you may have heard of other tools as well, but I'll spend less time on them in this presentation, and mainly focus on what I think are the two most important tools. So supervised learning started to work really well about a decade ago, and in fact, when FPT AI was stood up, was it in 2017, a lot of the capabilities that FPT used was supervised learning. Supervised learning is very good at labeling things. Given an input A, labeling that with an output B. For example, the most lucrative application of this I've worked on is probably advertising, where by labeling what ads someone is more likely to click on, this is worth more than $100 billion a year to a single company like Google, and there are millions of developers building supervised learning applications. A project that my team, Landing AI, did with FPT was on inspection, where we take a picture of an X-ray image of a door panel and label if there's a defect, and that's defect inspection. Or one example I used a little bit today is restaurant sentiment reviews, where you can input a review, label it, is this a positive or negative sentiment, and that's for reputation monitoring. So here's a workflow of what supervised learning works, right? If you were to build a supervised learning system, you start by collecting a data set where you say, the banh mi was great. So you label that as positive, the server was slow, there's negative, my favorite football, positive. And in the typical AI workflow, you get a data set, find a way to train an AI model, then maybe find a cloud service to deploy it, and then input, best iced coffee I've ever had, and that will recognize that as a positive sentiment. And this has created lots of value in the last decade. And over the last decade, as we built bigger and bigger AI systems, bigger and bigger neural networks using NVIDIA or AMD or other GPUs, this created a lot of value. And it was actually based on supervised learning that we now have generative AI. So generative AI, if you haven't played with ChatGPT or Bard or Bing Chat, I hope you do so. But generative AI inputs a phrase called a prompt and can use AI to complete this. So if you run this once, it may say, it'll give different answers like that. And we call that the AI-generated output. Now, I know there's a lot of hype about generative AI. So let me take just half a slide to explain how it works. Generative AI, at the heart of it, is using supervised learning to repeatedly predict the next word. So, for example, if generative AI has read on the internet a sentence like, my favorite food is pork banh mi, what this is this becomes data for supervised learning to predict, if you see my favorite food is, what's the next word? In this case, it's pork. My favorite food is a pork, what's the next word? Banh, and so on. And it turns out that when you train a very, very large AI model on a lot of data, hundreds of billions, maybe more than 1 trillion words, Then you get a large language model like ChatGPT. And by repeatedly predicting the next word, this brought to us these amazing capabilities of text generative AI. And I think that prompting is revolutionizing AI application development. Many of you will be familiar with generative AI as a consumer tool if you use ChatGPT or Bard or those consumer web applications. But there's one other revolution underway, which is how it's changing how we build AI software. And I find that as exciting, maybe even more exciting than just the consumer tool, even though it's a fantastic consumer tool as well. But it turns out that in the traditional AI workflow of getting data, training a model, deploying it, that might take 6 to 12 months. So a lot of AI projects that took realistically 6 to 12 months to build and deploy a commercial-grade AI system. But with prompting, there are a lot of systems that used to take me 6 months to build, that today, hundreds of thousands of people around the world can build in maybe a week. And this is exciting because it opens up dramatically the set of applications that AI can now build. I think in anticipation of this, I actually created a video, but just as, when you run something like this, right, in a few seconds, but the point of this was response positive sentiment. But the point of this is all the code that's required in order to build a cutting-edge AI system today. And so today, the teams that could do this in minutes that used to take me and very good teams maybe hours. And so with these new capabilities with generative AI, this opens up a lot of opportunities. These circles represent what I think is the value or revenue associated with different AI technologies. Supervised learning for a single company can be worth more than 100 billion US dollars a year. And generative AI, very exciting, but it's new. We still have a lot of work ahead of us to identify and build to the many concrete use cases. And if these circles is the revenue or the value with these technologies today, this is what I think it will grow to in 3 years. I think supervised learning, with millions of developers working on it, maybe will double in the next 3 years and become even more massive. Generative AI is much smaller today, but will grow much faster than doubling. And if it continues to compound at this rate, then in 6 years, generative AI maybe will approach or surpass the value of supervised learning. This is a very short time horizon. So this is not for lack of enthusiasm for generative AI. It's a very rapid growth, and 3 years is a very short time. But a lot of the work ahead of us is identify and build the many use cases indicated by the light shaded regions. And one thing I hope you take away from this part of the presentation is AI technologies are general purpose technologies. We've already seen that supervised learning is useful for many different applications, and generative AI will be too. So massive value remains to be created from both of these technologies, where the work is to figure out where to apply them and then to build the applications. But with one caveat, which is that I think there will be short-term fads along the way. So I don't know if any of you remember the app Lensa, but this was an app that was really hot through last year. It would let you upload a few pictures of yourself and draw a very cool picture of you as a scientist or an astronaut. And so its revenues took off like that through December, and then it did that. And I think this is because Lensa was one of what would turn out to be multiple fads in AI, where it was a good idea, but because it was a very thin software layer built on top of someone else's very powerful APIs, it wasn't a long-term sustainable business. When I think about Lensa, I'm reminded of when Steve Jobs brought us the smartphone. At that time, someone figured out how to write an app that I paid $1.99 for to do this. Right, to turn on the LED flashlight. And this was a good idea. It made the phone a flashlight, but this also wasn't a long-term business. But just as the iPhone, the smartphone, allowed others to build Airbnb and Uber and Tinder, really long-term valuable businesses, I think we have that opportunity ahead of us using generative AI as well. And whenever there's a new general purpose technology, there are so many projects to be built that it gives a lot of opportunities both for incumbents as well as for new startup entrants. So I think FPT software clearly has a huge role to play to help many enterprises identify and build these applications, and also startups. In fact, when Nguyen Phong was visiting Dan Maloney and me in the US just a couple of weeks ago, Phong and us were chatting about how FPT could even participate and contribute to the startup ecosystem here in Vietnam to grow startups, to go after these opportunities as well. And in terms of where the opportunities are, this is what I think of as an AI stack. At the lowest level is the hardware layer. Very valuable, very capital intensive, very concentrated. So I think the incumbents like FPT, as well as obviously NVIDIA and AMD and so on, will have very good opportunities here, but frankly, very harder for startups. There's a cloud infrastructure layer, and I think FPT Cloud has done great work, but I think this is also a place that's so capital intensive, the incumbents may have an advantage. Then the developer tools. The way I showed OpenAI just now was as a developer tool, helping developers build AI applications. I think that this place has room for incumbents and for startups, where startups have a better chance if they have a significant technology advantage. So I think of Landing AI as a deep tech company building unique computer vision tech, because I think that gives us a chance at having a huge impact through tools. And the last part of the stack that tends to be underappreciated is the application layer. It turns out that whenever there's a wave of technology, people tend to talk about the technology and infrastructure layer, but for that to be successful, the application layer needs to be even more successful so that they can generate enough revenue to pay the infrastructure layer. And I find that there are a lot of applications that FPT and FT customers, I think, will identify and want to build, where frankly the competition will be less intense because there's less attention on it. But collectively, I think there will be even more opportunities here than in the infrastructure layer. So I've talked a lot about where I think the technology, where I think generative AI creates opportunities. Looking a little bit in the future, I just want to share where I think the technology is going, which is from large language models, LLMs like ChatGPT, to now also having large vision models, LVMs. So text prompting has transformed the way we process text, and this technology is coming to vision as well. Over the last year, couple of years, my team has had a very fruitful collaboration with FPT, working on projects like automotive door panel inspection. So this image that reflecting some of the work that we and Nguyen Phong were doing for automotive inspection. So we've already been doing many projects in computer vision, but I think computer vision is about to get much easier in the next few years. And I'll probably skip the demo. But what has happened in tech is in 2017, my former team, Google Brain, published a paper called the Transformer paper, and that led to a wave of innovation, different teams building on top of each other. BERT, GPT-3, GPT-4, Palm, Bard, ChatGPT, and so on, and that's created the ChatGPT text processing revolution. What is less widely known is that 3 years later, in 2020, same team, my former team, Google Brain, published the Vision Transformer paper that showed how to adapt these ideas to vision. And this has since led to a wave of innovation of many teams building on top of each other to build vision transformers. And what I'm seeing is that progress in large language models was driven by transformer networks pre-trained on a lot of data on the internet. This was true for text. This is increasingly true for vision. A lot of the training, a lot of the way that AI learns is from unlabeled data. So this gives us access to a lot of data because you don't need people to label as much data. This was true for text. This is increasingly true for vision. And scaling up model size and data size is enabling the models to learn from 1 trillion words or from 100 million images, and then with just a little bit of additional information, a short text prompt, or what we've been working on, a simple visual prompt, to develop something that can generalize very well. And so I see this as not yet fully here. The revolution isn't fully here, but I think it will be in the next 1 or 2 years, and that text processing revolution that we've already seen is coming to vision as well. And this is transforming the way we do industrial inspection, industrial automation. I think this will also have a huge impact on autonomous vehicles as well, which I know something is something there's a lot of excitement here in Vietnam about as well. And just to wrap up, this is my last slide. I just want to thank Chairman Bin and FPT and all of you again for the warm welcome. This is my first time in Vietnam. I think Coursera has had a long relationship with FPT University. Lanyai has been working with FPT software for a long time. For some reason, I had never had an opportunity to visit Vietnam in person until now, and so I'm very grateful to everyone for the warm welcome. And I've been excited about Vietnam's strengths for a long time. The very rigorous educational system. I was privileged to have supervised Quoc Le from Vietnam, and I understood how fantastic a lot of the educational system here is. And the strong services sector, as well as the vibrant community with healthy, favorable demographic trends. And so I honestly think that Dan Maloney, Lanyai CEO, and I, we talk a lot about what are the places that we want to invest in and spend more time in. And I'm actually very optimistic about the future of Vietnam and the future of AI in Vietnam specifically. And with the very strong software services sector in Vietnam, I think there's a lot of opportunities as well to keep strengthening education and also to move up the value chain in AI. So even though this is my first visit to Vietnam, I hope that I'll have many opportunities to come back and do a lot more work with FPT and with all of you, and I look forward to a bright future together. So let me say thank you all very much.